Aloha and mahalo for joining me. I'm Janet and welcome to the Call to Create podcast. And I'm here to help you use your God-given creative gifts and share it. Share your gifts because they are so important and they're given to you for a reason. So use your gifts, ladies. And this month, the month of March, is Women's History Month. And I just wanted to make this episode because I thought this was really interesting. And I just want to talk about Women's History Month in a little bit of a different way. So I want to start off with talking about how Women's History Month actually got started. And I went over and Googled, of course, Women's History Month. And it took me to the first thing that showed up in Google was womenshistorymonth.gov. And I'll have the link in the show notes too, because I really encourage you folks to actually go and read how all the details on how Women's History Month got started. But what I'll do is just give a basic overview of how Women's History Month got started. So on this page, it talks about the origins, and there were people who requested the president to proclaim the week beginning of March 7th, 1982 as Women's History Week. So I found that interesting because I personally didn't know that it started off as Women's History Week. I thought it was always for the whole month. And then it gives you a little breakdown of what happened throughout the years. And then finally, it became Women's History Month. So after all the hard work that women put in, and so eventually women wanted March to be a whole month of Women's History Month. And then so finally it was made in the US for the whole month of March to be Women's History Month. And basically, Women's History Month is to celebrate the contributions women have made to the United States and recognize the specific achievements women have made over the course of American history in a variety of fields. And there's so many amazing, amazing women who, and on this page, actually, they have portraits and stories of amazing women who have done some really incredible things to help the US and help women and break through barriers and all kinds of stuff. It's so fascinating. And I hope you take the opportunity to read through some of these things and some of these women. I was going through a little bit of it. But because there's so many women who have made amazing contributions to the US for decades and centuries, actually, I wanted to focus on something different because there's no way I could do any justice to any women who have done these incredible things throughout all the centuries in the US. So what I thought I would talk about is how about the women who have made a significant contribution in your own family. And I wanted to do that because the women in our lives, in our own families, have contributed to who we are and who we've become. And sometimes they're not recognized for that. You know, being a mother is a really hard job. And if you don't have any children, I'm sure you've witnessed what it's like when you've seen women and all of that take care of their families and their kids. And because I'm a mom and a grandma, I know how important it is to take care of children and family. But it's also a really hard job, and it's one job that we never get recognized for. I mean, unless, you're like a movie star. Sometimes the movie stars, when they become famous, they thank their moms. And I know not everyone comes from a family where the mother is present or their mother is encouraging or nurturing. I know quite a few women who their mothers were very abusive and not very present in their life. But it's okay because usually if your own mother wasn't present in your life or she didn't treat you well, there's usually another woman in your life somewhere that made a big difference in your life. It could have been a teacher, it could have been an aunt, it could have been a grandmother, it could have been a neighbor or your friend's mother. So, because I've worked with women for so long, I've heard all kinds of stories of other women being a great influence in their life. So, let's talk a little bit about the women in your life. So, think about your mother or the other woman who has influenced you. What did she do to help you? What is it that she said, or what kind of guidance did she give you? Think about that. We want to celebrate whatever good things that have come about from these women, because you are who you are because of women. I mean, we are who we are because of our father or whatever other adult figure we have in our life. But because we're talking about women, what is it that these women or your mother did to help you become who you are? And, in this podcast, I created it because I wanted to get my voice out. I wanted to share all the knowledge that I have and all the experiences that I have, and to share all the things that I love. And my first love is being creative and doing creativity and teaching people how to be creative. And so because I love that, I felt like I wanted to share that as much as possible because, like I said, I am a mom and a grandmother. And being a mom, I never really was appreciated by my children. And even now that they're adults, I think now that they finally have their own children, that they're starting to realize and recognize, what it's like not being appreciated by your own children. I mean, their kids are still really small, but it is a very stressful and exhausting job to be a mother. And it is rewarding, but for a really long time, I always felt like I was going to be really old, like an 80-year-old woman, before my kids appreciated all the things that I've done and the countless hours, I've lost sleep, and actually the years that I've lost sleep because I do have 4 children. But I always feel like I wanted to get my voice heard so that I can feel like I have something, so that I can share any achievements that I have as well, especially because that's what Women's History Month is. It's about recognizing the specific achievements of women. And so, because I'm only talking specifically about the achievements of the women in our own personal lives, because we don't get appreciated very much. So I wanted to share as much as I can with people. And, it's such a gratifying feeling to share the things that I know and the achievements that I have. And even if it's really small, I've never done anything in history to be in the history books, and I haven't done anything amazing like the women who are featured on this Women's History Month page. But I have to remember that even the little achievements that I make in my own family and in my own life are just as important. I don't have to, and you don't have to do something so big and heroic to be in the history books in order for you to celebrate those achievements. Because sometimes even just the little achievements are just as important, because from what I know is that I was created by God and I am important to God. And I know that God loves me, and I know that God loves all people on this earth. And so because I know that I am important. And of course, for years, I never felt important. As I get older, I recognize the fact that it only matters what God thinks of me. And it doesn't matter what my children or anybody else thinks of me, because in the end, after I pass away and leave this earth, I'm the only one that has to answer to God for what I've done or what I didn't do. So I try to live my life like that. So now I try to celebrate all the little achievements that I've done. And that's what I want for you. I want to share that with you. I want you to look at your life where you look at these little achievements that you've made and celebrate those. And don't look at it as, that's just something that I have to do, or it's no big deal because I'm not famous or I'm not in the history books. pay attention to all these little things that you've done because they are important. And look at the women in your life and what have they done to create, to mold you and to help you become the woman that you are now. And celebrate that. If you've never told them thank you, or if you've never told them that I appreciate what you've done for me, do that today. Give them a call or send them a text message. Usually the older women, they prefer a phone call. But whatever you can do is let these women know how much they mean to you and what they've done to help mold who you are. And it'll just really make a big difference in these family members, in their lives. These people need to know how they've helped you, because you got to remember that you want to be able to have your family appreciate you and appreciate all the things that you've done to help them. And of course, it may not happen until these people, if you have children, until they have their own family, but it'll happen one day. And it's so important because so often, we're not sharing our gratitude with people, and we have to wait sometimes until they get really sick and they end up in the hospital. I've seen it so much, so many times over the years where, women get sick and they get cancer because they're so busy trying to take care of everyone else, and they don't feel appreciated, and they keep doing it and they keep trying to take care of everyone to feel like they have worth and that they make a difference. So tell these women in your life that they do matter and that they have made a big difference in your life. And I want you to write down, remember, I always talk about your notebook. Make your special notebook if you want to, and write down some of the achievements that you've done, and write down the achievements that your family members have made. And specifically, like I said, I've been talking about all the women in your life and your mother, if she was present. Write down all of these things because you want to remember that after they pass away. You want to remember all the special things that they've done. And I would even suggest videotaping them and have them talk about what it was like being a mother, or if it was an aunt or a grandmother, what it was like having you in their life. Because once they're gone, you don't have their voice. And sometimes when you're having a rough day, sometimes just hearing their voice or watching a video of them really helps. And I think the hardest part about when a family member passes away is the fact that you miss them being around, and the sound of their voice, or getting a hug from them, or getting advice from them. So that's what I would want you to do, is to videotape these wonderful women in your life and have them talk about what it was like. And if they've done things that you just admire, have them talk about those things too. Because, everyone has their own unique way of doing things, and everybody has their own genius, and every woman has their own gifts from God. And no two women are alike, which is wonderful because it just brings such a vibrant, beautiful, colorful life when all women are different and they have such unique talents and gifts from God. So think about that. Think about some of the questions you want to ask them, and celebrate them, and just let them talk. I wish I would have done that before my grandmother passed away. She passed away like 17 years ago. And years later, it was a suggestion from someone that we should interview our family members, because once they're gone, they're gone. You can't get any of the beautiful history that they've had, and to hear their voice and see their face and their smile. And, I really wish I did that, because although my grandmother wasn't perfect, I think she made up for it as a grandmother. She really, I think, didn't enjoy being a mother, but she loved being a grandmother. And I just truly, absolutely loved being around her. She always made things feel like it was going to be okay, even though I was stressed or something was going on. And I think grandmothers have that way of making you feel, and even an aunt, they just have a beautiful, loving way of making you feel special. And so that's what I try to do with my grandchildren is make them feel loved and special and all of that, because I want my grandchildren to remember me and all the wonderful things that I'm trying to do with them and for them. And of course, I had my own stresses being a mother, and me too. I think I didn't really enjoy having a lot of little kids all at one time. It was exhausting and stressful, but I absolutely love being a grandmother. And of course, I'm a young grandmother, but I think I have more energy right now being a young grandmother. But think about all of these things and think about what you can do to just make these women feel appreciated. Because so often I hear from so many women that I know that they don't feel appreciated at all. It's usually their girlfriends that make them feel appreciated. And, our girlfriends are, I think, our best cheerleaders. They love us no matter what. They're always cheering us on. They don't say bad things or negative things. They don't swear at us. And I mean, I don't live in a family where we swear at each other, but I know families that do. So take this time today and celebrate the women in your life. Let them know how much you love and appreciate them, and reach out to them today, because this whole month of March is Women's History Month. And without the women in our lives, we wouldn't be here at all. Definitely, we wouldn't be in existence. So take this time to really care about yourself too, and care about what you've done and what you've accomplished, and write in your notebook all of your accomplishments. Because sometimes we live in families that don't really appreciate all the accomplishments that we have. So do this for yourself today, and you'll be so happy that you did this, I can guarantee. And you'll appreciate the fact that you wrote things down and you've celebrated your own little wins and achievements. And you are special. I wanted to let you know that you have worth and value. And thank you for letting me share this with you today. And please share this podcast with anyone who you know would get great value out of listening to it, especially if you know that they're thinking about starting their own business. Or even if they're not, there's still great value that I share in each episode that can bring value to women, even if they aren't interested in starting their own business. And please rate and review this podcast. I would appreciate it. And thank you so much. I hope you have a great day. Aloha.